How do you call such kind of music?
Say it again.
The music.
Yeah, that's Trinidad and Calypso.
Woman stronger than a wall. A big pusher, iron she daughter. Son in jail for manslaughter. Too bad for him, fear them bad boys. No bail, that's the black man's choice. Like Shadow say, poverty is hell. She little girl child belly start to swell. Some say life is a cycle, but don't draw she knows.
All right, tonight's FM 99.9. We're going to hand you over to Jimo Thomas with the program Voices. Good evening to you, Jimo.
Hey, good evening, my brother. Good evening. Thank you for hosting. This is the Voices program for November 13th, 2023. We have a good program lined up for you as usual. Tonight, we have my good sister, Edwidge Ibakis. I hope I called that name correctly. And she would talk us through some very important work that she's doing, some work that I was pleased to be involved with her in doing. But before we do that, I'll do what we normally do as usual. I would read my column for last week, and then we'll come back to my good sister, Edwidge. So here we go. The column of last week is called A Search for Facts and Truth. And I go to this. The explosive expansion in telecommunications has brought to our eyes, ears, voices, and fingertips information, facts, and an avenue to knowledge and greater understanding. This unprecedented access to information via smartphone, Wi-Fi connection, and the internet means that there may well be more facts and less knowledge. With the ease of access comes a flood of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and alternative facts. This rush of information has caused great confusion and disorientation among large sections of the population. Some protest that they don't know what to believe or who to trust. Who to believe or trust? Our schools, churches, leaders, and other socializing institutions reliable sources? Should we trust our own beliefs or opinions? Where do ideas come from anyway? Are these ideas and opinions we hold really ours? Or are we simply repeating what we observe, read, or hear without examining and interrogating them? When I lived in the United States, I remember a bumper sticker that said, "The Bible said it, I believe it, end of story." Another way of making a similar expression is to say, "My country, right or wrong." But the question looms large. Is unquestioned allegiance to anyone or anything wise or useful? There's a radio program called Scriptural Search. It grapples with the biblical text in search of meaning and answers to everyday issues and problems. It makes for good listening, even though one may not always agree with either the host, guest, or conclusions. It is the search that matters. Similarly, James Baldwin, the celebrated American literary giant, said, "I am most critical of my country because it is all I have got." Experience has shown that the mass mind is to be frowned on. It fosters groupthink and a single view of everything. And we all know the dangers of a single story. It can lead to draconian measures, misinformation, and disinformation. We are not far removed from the days when powerful forces told us that the COVID vaccine offered complete prevention and protection against infection, transmission, hospitalization, and death from the illness. Anyone, including highly qualified doctors, virologists, or epidemiologists, not to mention ordinary citizens with common sense, who questioned the preferred narrative, were chastised and vilified. Most lost their livelihood and much more. Now we are told, after all of the carnage, that the authorities never said the vaccine offered complete protection. Experience over the last 2 years constitute living proof of the dangers of a single story. We must say, never again. Never must we allow our emotions and actions to be driven by fear, the lowest of all vibrations. In the darkest hour, we must force ourselves to stop and think. The futuristic thinker, Alvin Toffler, said, The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who refuse to learn, unlearn, and relearn. This is a profound thought that more of us should embrace. Nothing is settled for all times. Change is the only constant. We must always look for information that challenges our worldview and be prepared to do away with untested, outmoded or refuted ideas. Critical thinking is fundamental to self development. Only through critical thinking can we truly become problem solvers. No one disputes that our country is saddled with a mountain of problems. More of us need to learn to question. There's a great danger in surrendering one's thought. Everyone must learn to process ideas for themselves. In the era of fake news and alternative facts, misinformation and disinformation, the search the search for knowledge takes on an even greater importance. The ancients were correct in saying, "She who knows that she knows little knows the most." An appreciation for the limits of your understanding is the engine that ought to propel us in search of more knowledge. Even though we believe that the universe is noble, we are confronted with the harsh reality that there are no knowns. These are things that we know that we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things that we know we don't know, but there are also unknown unknowns. These are the things we don't know. We don't know. Therefore, how do we arrive at the truth? Are facts truth? Are truths factuals? Some say that facts and truths are different things, but are they? A fact is something that is indisputable, based on empirical research and quantifiable nudges. Facts go beyond theories. They are proven through calculation and experience. Truth is discovered fact. For example, the chemical formula for water is H2O, two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. This formula holds true whether we are on the continent of Africa, in Australia, or Antigua. It is also true that an egg from a woman and a sperm from a man allows for the conception of the miracle of a newborn baby. It is a fact and true. It is a fact and true that Ralph Gonzalez has been Prime Minister of our country since April 1st, 2021. Therefore, truth, like facts, is universal and testable. Sometimes a given view is presented and repeated by the most respected and authoritative voices. It does not mean that it is factual or true. One of the best examples of this is Colin Powell's persuasive but lying 2003 presentation to the United Nations Security Council about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Powell's performance led to the invasion of Iraq, the destruction of the country, and the death and displacement of millions of Iraqis. Similarly, one does not have to have a university degree to be wise and discerning. Wisdom is found in the simplest of places in the nick of time. As it should be, the search for facts and truth continues. Now, that was my take from last week, but we are not here to talk about facts and truth in the way in which I articulated in my column. We are here to talk, as I said, with my sister Edwige Ibakis. And my sister, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late where you are. It's probably after 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, no problem. No
Yes,
problem.
I
I
am.
used to work at this time, so it is not a problem for me.
Well, that is true because every time I try to make a contact, I'm a little concerned about sending you messages, and you shoot
Yeah,
from
because it's
so I
very
know that
quiet.
you're up. Yeah, but I know you're the president, I think, of the South Development NGO, right?
Yeah, yeah. I am
Right.
a biochemist. I am a biochemist first.
The training, yeah,
I work a lot for pharmaceutical industries during many years. And at the same time, I also opened South Development 26 years ago now. And after a few years, we also set up a Sickle Cell Disease International Organization.
right.
And Sickle Cell Disease International was division of South Development, and it began to grow, and it was impossible to keep it inside South Development, so it became another NGO.
Right.
And we are working on culture, health, economic, and mostly for South countries.
Right.
So I am in Paris, based in Paris, born in Paris, grew up in Paris, based in Paris.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still attached in Africa, and everywhere where the need is to help, we are there. We can go. We have a lot of activities also in India, and now we want to launch a very big program for culture, health. So you can ask me questions and I will present you the
Yes.
project.
Yes. So, in your training as a biochemist, do you still work in that area, or are you just exclusively now working with South Development?
No, not exclusively. I'm still a small woman entrepreneur.
Ah,
I
I see.
I have I I work for the last company. It was Johnson and Johnson. I stopped to work on Johnson in 2006. Why? Because my social activities took a lot of time to me, and it was difficult to manage both. So I decided to create my own company. And I have a small company on communication and health. A few years back, I had a division in India, in New Delhi. And I have also a small trading company in Ivory Coast.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
I am a small entrepreneur.
Small entrepreneur. Wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful, wonderful.
yeah.
But what were the motivations for you back in 2006? 2006, right?
Yeah.
2008, when you decided to create South Development, that NGO. What drove you to
No,
create that?
because in reality, I already have a social activities when I was student, and in 2000 and no, in 1997, with few friends, we decide to create South Development, to make projects in South countries from here, the diaspora, to we can help people, how we can do some programs there. And in 2000, I had a child who had sickle cell disease. And I asked to my friends, the team, what we can do to change the things, because it was the disease of an injustice, because the treatment was not very good. So many things had to be done. So we create a program, an international program in 7 points, to see how we can train doctors, how we can also make the advocacy for sickle cell disease all over the world,
Right.
to have the recognition of sickle disease as a priority of health.
Mhm.
And believe me, to work for a poor disease who don't have the support of pharmaceutical industries, because there is no interest and economic interest, it's very, very difficult. So we began also to join to many countries. The head of state in France was President Chirac. Many countries in Africa, in Senegal, it was President Wade. And the godfather of sickle cell disease was a former president of Benin, who was a doctor, and he was here in France. And
Right.
it works also a lot for us, so to have the support of many countries to make the adoptions of many resolutions. So now we have the four resolution for sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is recognized as a priority of health. We have African Union, the first resolution. The second one, UNESCO. The third was WHO. And the last one was UN. And 19 June, our International Day is now recognized as the World International Day of Sickle Cell Disease.
Right. But why did you choose, of all of the diseases that may plague Africa and some of the countries in the South, why did you choose sickle cell?
I told you why. I told you why. The reason why is that I was concerned first, and I realized the lack of treatment, the lack, and the kind of. I used to say that for me it is the. I never see another disease in the world who are they call it the race disease because they call it the black disease, and it is not
Right.
the truth. So it's kind of injustice. We cannot accept that. So
Right.
we began the advocacy to say, no, it is not the truth. We cannot say, because racist people in United States began that 1 century ago. And they make the racism, the separation, the segregation also through sickle cell disease. So in the perception of people, they kept it in their mind. So it is the disease of black people. They don't take care of such kind of disease. So we began the advocacy to say, so most of the African people and black people don't know that what white people also have sickle cell disease.
Right.
Sickle cell disease is there because malaria is there. So all the places where malaria was, you have the gene of sickle cell disease.
Right. But there's this misunderstanding that, and because of that misunderstanding, there's not a lot of funding for sickle cell. Or
No, it was because of the lack of, for example, I give you the example for France. In France, at that time, there was not, doctors don't know what is sickle cell disease. Many patients died because of that, the lack of knowledge. And you have only few regions where Paris and few cities only where you can find some doctors who can take care of kids, because first of all, it is the disease of kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not possible to continue like that. So we gathered many doctors in France, and the good way to change the things was to make it recognitions through the resolutions. At time, it is now recognized. Now we have many centers of sickle cell disease in France. This is one example. And in many countries, we don't have centers of sickle cell disease in many countries in Africa. For example, we create with the government of Congo one center in Brazzaville, another center in Mali with the government of Mali, and another one in Senegal. But the resolutions are there for different association of patients in each country to be used by them to improve the quality of health of patients. So it is the reason why we made that advocacy, and we work hardly to get it done, to have the resolution.
I see. And at the time when you were doing that, I remember in talking to you, you told me that there were some people who were not confident you would be able to do the kind of work that you are doing now, because they felt, well, here you are, you're a woman, you're an African woman, and they didn't have that kind of confidence, and you were committed to proving them wrong. Tell us a little about that story.
When I was a student, I had a friend of my father who told me one thing. He told me that, Edwidge, you have to put in mind that you have two difficulties in your life. First of all, you are a woman. Secondly, you are a black woman. And he was a white man. And he said that because of those two things, you have to work a lot to develop the things. So
Right.
I grew up with that in my mind. And all the things I used to do is first to change the quality of life of people first, but also to tell them that it is very important to be confident of what you want to do in your life. You have to trust, and when you will trust, you will put your energy, your knowledge, if you have the knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, you can also study to do the right and the good things. So this is my motto. This is what helped me to fight as I'm fighting all the time. I'm
Right. Right.
fighting for the populations. I'm fighting for the people as me. I just finished a conversation with a friend of mine, and she told me, when you will sell, I don't know, tell you what, because you are doing many art, you have to sell it. You keep it. You keep it. Why you are keep it? You keep. You want to be poor? You don't want to sell the things? I say, no, I'm making these things only for my pleasure, not to make peace. I say, yes, all of the time you are making the things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. There's still some
It's
people
my
like
way of,
there's still some people like
yeah,
that in the world. But I want you in terms of the sub development. You talked about the places you were working in Ivory Coast, in Mali, in the Congo, and did you say Trinidad and Tobago?
if I made what?
As Trinidad and Tobago was one of the countries as well, right? Where you
Yeah,
work?
yeah.
Right,
I have a small team there.
right.
I
So,
used to go in Ivory Coast also.
mm, but
Um,
tell us something about you. You said that the effort is in culture, health, agriculture, broad economic development. Tell us about the what you
yeah.
find about the culture that you want to spread.
So I went in Congo few years back for sickle cell disease. I came back in Congo also to. I decided to go in rural area, to work in rural area, and
Right,
I choose Makwa because I have a friend who is from Makwa, and he began to tell me the story of Makwa. And I said to him that what I want to see, it is the hospital. And I saw the hospital. I said, no, you cannot let such kind of hospital in your area. It is time to see
yeah,
how we can change that. And he's here, he lives here in Luxembourg. And one another day, he told me that we have Aqua people in Makwa. I say, what? Aqua people in Makwa? I say, what is that? So I decide to know what is the meaning of that.
right,
And I realized that people from that area are the people who are also in Cameroon, where my father, the country of my ancestor, my father. I say, I want to know the links, and I began to make the research, to read many, to gather also physicians to better understand the history of these people. And I realized that during the wave of expansion that began 4,000 or to 5,000 years ago, Bantu speaking populations from Central Africa began their migration. And few uh, scientists say that the first group of Bantu speaking people who began the migrations are Makwa people. It's the
right,
reason why we can find these people in many countries in Central Africa, in East Africa, in South Africa, and from Mozambique, they began the migration all over the world, in
right.
Asia, in South America. So I say it is an opportunity to do two things. First, to develop the hospital with the government, WHO, and pharmaceutical industry, but also to create a cultural event. That cultural event will gather all the African descent people of different countries of the world in Congo. And the specificity of these people is that 80% of them kept the name Makwa or Aqua in different countries.
Right.
For example, in Mozambique, there are 7 million people, Makwas people. And from Mozambique, they are still kept the languages in Madagascar, in Comoros, so all these countries. So these events will be the opportunity for us to gather an intercultural event, but with development also. We will not come to dance, to eat only, no. How we can develop also activities to change the
And,
lives of many of us.
yeah, it was an amazing story when we were in the Congo, when we were in the Congo where, because you're talking about the Makwa people and some of them also going over to India.
Yeah,
And it was such an amazing story that one of the young doctors that you brought over from India was a young
yeah,
lady with the name Makwa. So here was this
Makwa.
young lady who was going back to her ancestral roots, to the village of
Exactly.
Makwa, and her name was Makwa. Talk a little about
Exactly.
how you discovered her in India,
I discovered her through the Dr. Sharma. The
Dr.
Dr. Sharma
Sharma.
called me one day and say to me, I want to present you someone. Hello, can you hear me?
I think the last thing I heard is that Dr. Sharma called me and said he wanted to.
Yeah, Dr. Sharma, and he called me, he said, you can't believe that. I have now a student near me. She's a CD because in India they call them CD. She's a CD and her name is Makwa. I said, no, it's not possible. So I want to see her. So I began to exchange. I also exchanged with her father many times to
Right.
better understand. And now the whole family want to go in Africa.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
I remember, when we were there, the people of Makwa so much wanted to meet this young lady whose name
They
was
are suffering a lot there. We cannot leave them like that. It is
yeah,
very important for Africa to gather his all the son of the people of African people all around the world. So these people, see, these people are suffering a lot in India. Racism, segregations. We don't know that. It is another fight. I say to her that now I know why the God sent me to India. I used to go to India. Now I know
you
because
know
I
why.
have to make. I finished advocacy of sickle cell disease in India. Now it is time to make the advocacy of CDs people.
Right, right. And one of the things that we talked about, so maybe you may want to tell our audience a little bit more about this. One of the things we talked about was reconnecting and reuniting um, diasporan Africans, Africans in the diaspora, with Africans in the continent. Why do you think that is such an important thing to connect diasporan Africans with Africans on the continent, continental Africans?
I think that when you see the problem we are facing, not now, for Jewish people who want to have their land, who want to come back to their land, who want a place where they can be together. I think that we can have also the same feeling, how we can be together in the motherland. It is our land. And
Mm,
what we can do together in our motherland. We need a place where we can be together. We need an event like the event we will launch each 2 years. We will be together. We need also the place. Now, what I told you that we really want to a kind of cooperation also of CARICOM of different
Yes.
countries who
Yeah.
want to develop many economic activities in Africa, and
Right.
people also can decide to have a house in Africa. It is their land. It
Yeah.
is the motherland. We have to be there and to be another part, but it is the place where we can be.
Yeah.
Ghanaian people are doing that now a lot.
Yes,
We
a lot
can
of
do
that is
that
being
also
done in
in South
Ghana.
Africa. Yes, yes, we have the possibility to do the same thing.
Yeah. I have been trying, based on the conversation that I had with you, I've been trying to make connection with the Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Saboto Caesar, because I know we also talk about agricultural exchanges and so on, to try to make that connection and to get that synergy between agriculturalists in on the African continent and those here in the Caribbean. I haven't been able to consummate that yet, but the efforts
Yeah,
continue.
exactly. And we really want to see what will be the opportunity also for people from West Indies to come in Africa to come to invest. Or African people also can go in West Indies to invest. We
Yes,
can make a kind of bridge also,
really.
because in agriculture we want to see rural people in conference, how we can create a kind of network also of people. They will continue to exchange. They
Yes,
will have a fair of agriculture also during this period also.
yes,
You can also bring many things from West Indies to Africa to show them your project we have out on food and different things we can exchange and create a kind of strong development
yeah.
together.
In fact, just last week, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Dr. Al Gonzalez, was in Nigeria. He had gone to Igun State in Nigeria. So those
Ibun
connections.
State, it is Aqua Ibun State.
Oh, the Akon people are in
Yeah,
Igun State as well.
Aqua Ibun State, and Aqua Ibun State will be in Aqua in Makwa.
Ah, wow. But yeah, so those connections are being made. We just have to concretize them. We just have to solidify them and ensure that they become much better. Um, the what was done in the last visit, the last connection that we had there in September. Is this Was that the first sojourn over? And what
Yes,
frequency would people
it is
would you do you intend to have this connection with the
this one.
with the Congo?
Yeah, this to set up to launch to prepare the population to receive their brothers and sisters who will come in the country, to
Right,
know that they have brother and sister in different places all over the world. It
right,
was something very important for them to realize that it is very important to have such kind of connection, and to prepare also what will happen in July. In
right,
July, we will invite a lot of king, queens, population of Africa, but we will also invite Afro descent leaders who are in different countries. We will also invite, for example, we are working now with Colombia, with the vice president of Colombia, because
right,
we want African Colombia to be there. They need, because most of them will tell you that we are coming from Congo. In India also, they are telling that we are coming from Congo, but they never went to Congo. It is also a place to gather all these people to know that they have a land, they have a place of land where they can come.
yeah,
And the difference between our history and the general history is that um, people make the migration inside Africa. They are still in different places inside Africa, and they also out of Africa. So
hmm,
you can see them. Because generally we knows the story that yes, our ancestor went in 160 from different places of from Africa, but it is, you cannot tell exactly from where they went. But
Mhm.
in that story, you knows where, you knows the way, the different, how they move inside Africa, and after, when they went back in the different places.
So
So this event, it is it will be an international conference. We will have cultural activities, we will have agricultural activities, and we will have also health activities, because we cannot do anything if we are sick. How we can
exactly,
develop?
yeah, exactly. In fact, when we were in the Congo, there was a tremendous, a big effort to ensure that the hospital was really assisted, and there was this whole question of doing the telemedicine and so on.
Yeah,
That is crucial because um, in terms of accessibility to some of these places, it's difficult to get there. So if you have the telemedicine, that may help even when a specialist is not on the continent.
we cannot
So
have specialists in rural area, and it is not a problem only for Africa. It is the big problem also we are facing here. Here we have some areas where you don't have doctors. We still
right,
have areas where you don't have specialists. So, but people are living there. How we, what, how can we do? Now, in France, for example, we are taking doctors from East Europe to come to go in rural areas
mhm,
because of the lacks of doctor.
right. Um,
It
I
is a
was
big problem.
I want to in terms of a cultural tip. I want to take you. I was struck when we were in the Congo with the amount of African women who wanted to have the hair, like they wanted to have what is it, the weave and so on. There were very few African women, African sisters who wore their hair naturally. Um, I was really taken aback by that there was
They want,
so many people.
all of them want to be like a black American woman now.
Ah, with the weave.
Mm, with the wig. And it is the fashion who came from America, and now it is the problem, not only in Africa, everywhere where you find black women, they have wig on the on the head.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting. It's really an interesting and amazing thing. You know, I did.
But now, but there's now another movement who want to improve bread for
Right.
African ladies, and but it is not easy. We
There
have
is that.
things.
There is that movement. In fact, here in St. Vincent, I think more than ever now, even more so than in the Black Power period of the 60s and 70s, there are more black women who are wearing their hair natural. They cut it short. They wear braids. They lock it. Much more now
Yeah.
than years before. So the
Yeah, yes.
consciousness.
Oh, yeah. I told you there is now another wave of new generations who want to have natural hair,
Yes.
but it is a problem. It is a problem because they are. It is a good, not a good industry. Wigs, not good for the biodiversity also, and very bad because it is a country places where it is very hot. So
Right.
how they can put on,
Yeah.
but it is their choice. But me,
But
I'm not there to
but what do you think though? What do you think is the reason why so many women in Africa, and I know you travel extensively. What do you think is the reason for so many women in Africa, or even in India, you find, for example, wanting to bleach their skin?
It is a complex.
Yeah.
It is a complex. It is a
Yeah.
complex, and it is a very big problem of health, because they will have many cancer, skin cancer, because of that.
Right.
And me, I cannot make easily the promotion of that.
Okay. All right.
I cannot I cannot do the promotion of that, because they will ask me why you are making you are not so black like us, and you don't want us to become like you. So it will
I see. So
it is it is the I'm not in a good position. But
you're not in good
me,
position.
I really want to help them, to say them, don't do anything, don't put anything on your skin.
Right.
Not good.
Right.
You will become sick in a few years. It is a very, very big program of bleaching in Congo, both
Yeah.
Congo, Senegal,
Yeah.
also Togo. You
Ghana.
have
Yeah.
countries like that. India also. But
Yes.
because of the complex, because in India, black Indian want to be like white
Right.
Indians,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they don't know the story, and that white Indians, it is the mix of Arab and European and all the things. It's the reason why they are like that.
But just to go back a little in terms of your origins, you said your parents were Cameroonian. Your dad was Cameroonian.
Yeah, I'm a mix. See,
Right.
the reason why I tell you that, I don't have the good skin to make such kind of advocacy.
I know what you're saying. I don't agree with you. I mean, you're
Now, for them, it will be very bad, because for them, they will not agree.
they would think that you have the kind of hair that you don't want them to get.
Or I am like them. So I make also the bleaching.
Right.
This is the problem.
But how was it growing up as a black woman in France?
Oh, now, black woman, the situation is becoming better. Now we are more visible. We have more visibility. And now they are living better. It is better than 20 years ago.
Better than 20 years
But the
ago.
racism is still, it remains. I'm not sure that the racism will finish one day.
Mhm.
And here we have also the separation of Black Africans and Black Caribbeans. And
Ah,
it is not good. We are the same people. We have to be together. We are
absolutely.
facing the same
Yeah.
problems.
I found when I lived in the United States, particularly when I went to when I was in university, I find a lot of professors would try to tell Afro Caribbean people, try to give them the impression that they were somehow better than African Americans. Some of them bought into it, but I always saw it as a divide and conquer kind of ploy, which I rejected from very early. So it's interesting to hear that the same thing happens in France.
Yeah, it happens. And it is not good, because also white people put them so many things in mind.
Hmm.
So you have the work has to be done during many, many times.
Right.
So it's the reason why it's good to create such kind of event who will gather all the people, and to say that we are together, we are the same people. It's not necessary to say that you are from this part, on this part, on this part.
Hmm.
No tribalism, no, 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 no.
I
And
mean,
here they are less than Africans now, so it's not good.
right. So, in terms of Caribbean people in France, they're mainly from Guadeloupe, Martinique, right? And
Caribbean people from Guadeloupe, Martinique, and
Cayenne,
also Cayenne, yeah.
right? Right.
And not only that, you have also some island near Africa, Réunion,
Where?
Réunion,
What is it called?
Réunion, Réunion.
Oh,
Réunion is island. It's another part of
okay.
Caribbean. We call all of them are in the group of Caribbean, but they are enough. They are enough. They are just near Madagascar.
Ah, okay. On the east coast, on the eastern side.
Yes, yes,
Mm,
east side.
okay.
And they are speaking Creole like others in the
Mhm.
American side.
What do you think is the biggest in terms of the work that you are doing with your NGO South Development? What do you think is the biggest contribution that Caribbean people can make to advancing that work?
I think that first of all, the government can be present, as I told you, and we can also create a cooperation between countries. This is one thing. We can also work with different NGOs from Caribbean also, culture, agriculture, different actors like that, to see how we can work together to develop some projects also together in both sides.
Right.
And I really want to come also to Saint Vincent. I told you that it will be a
Yes,
pleasure for me to travel
yes.
and to come to
It
visit.
would be a delight for us to have you here. You are
Yeah.
such an amazing, um, energy-packed woman.
I'm
You
trying.
know, you,
I want also to meet rural women,
yeah.
women
Once,
entrepreneurs, women
just plan
entrepreneurs.
it. Once you want, I would have a fully packed program for you when you come down. So when next the next sojourn back to the Congo is when?
12 to 14 July.
12 to 14 July.
So I invite all the Caribbean to, we will give them very soon. We are fighting to have good prices. We are fighting also to see with Air France how we can make special flights
Right.
and not only Air France. So we are working on that.
Mhm.
And I invite them to come not only to visit, but to come all the times. It is their land. It is our motherland. It is
Right.
also a place of. We hope that we will develop beautiful places in Makwa. We will
Right.
develop infrastructure. We will make, but we want to do that together because it will be a place for us to stay.
It's such an amazing place. You know,
Yeah.
when we were there, there was um, there was this groundbreaking ceremony. What 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 are the plans for those? What does the organization intend to build in those places?
What we can what we can build there. You are asking the
Yes.
project.
What is going to be built there?
Yeah, so we will build many things. We will build first, we will build some hotels there, okay?
Water.
A kind of the village, we will call it village. And this village will represent all the different areas where Afro descents are. You
Right.
see? We will also build some residence. We will build also hospital, a new hospital.
Mhm.
We will build also some monuments, museums of our history.
Mhm.
So it's the reason why I invite some business people from West Indies also to come to see
Right.
which
Right.
kind of project they can have. We will have Afrim Exim Bank also who will accompany us.
Right.
So Afrim Exim Banks now, I think that they made a kind of MOU with CARICOM.
Mhm.
So I invite many people to come and build our new land in Makwa, our new development project in the how do you call it, basin, Congo basin.
Mhm. Um, when we were over there, there was this spot next to the that center where we had some of the meetings, where it is said there was this marker in which he said that that was said to be the center of the earth. Remember?
Equator. Equator. The place where Makwa is on the equator line. Is it that?
Right, right, right. But there was a number of us took pictures there. I don't know if you had taken any picture there, but what it says, there was a marker that says this is absolutely the absolute center. It was
Yeah, it is the center of Equator. That's the imaginary line. Yeah,
yes, yeah,
yeah, who divide the world in two parts.
right. It was quite a thing to be there and
Exactly.
to feel that energy. Um, I wanted to, in terms of the projects that you're talking about, the hotels, the monument, in terms of a time frame, um,
Mhm.
this project, how much time you put on this project in terms of getting all of this in place?
Ooh, it will go. Now we have some. We are making some partnership with one group in India who want to set up the hospital.
Right.
This event will be take each 2 years. Each 2 years we will
The
make
build.
aqua okay event. So it is very important to do that because it will also as the government also will be involved in different infrastructure, also the development of infrastructure in the area, because people will come in the land. They will come to visit where they will stay. We need some hotels, we
Right.
need some
Right.
residence,
Right.
and people also can buy residence in the motherland also if they have
Yeah.
that possibility. So it is such kind of project. So when we will go there in July, we will have some meeting on that to
Right.
work together and to see the risk, because we will have another meeting for business people to invest in culture
Right.
project. So we will gather business people from foundation, business people from different countries. So, for example, the Chamber of Commerce of Saint Vincent also can be a part of that program.
A lot of the emphasis now is on the Republic of the Congo, in Mako, the Republic of the Congo. Are there plans to broaden that kind of project to, let's say, other countries in the West Coast, like Ivory Coast, Togo, Ghana, and so on? Are there plans to do that, or the concentration would be on the Republic of the Congo?
No, they will be obliged to do that because they have they didn't at the beginning, they realized how it is a wealth for them to have such kind of history.
Hmm.
And now they are realizing. I met the prime minister 2 days ago. He's in Paris here. I will meet him tomorrow again. And now
Right.
they realize how it is very important for them
Hmm.
uh, to make like others. It will be the first country in the Central Africa to do that,
Right.
because you have Cameroon, you have Gabon, you have Equatorial Guinea, you have DRC Congo, and it will be the place where we develop that for this area. And the chance we have is that we are Makwa region is just near many countries, just near Gabon, just near Centrafrique, um, Congo DRC, and also
Cameroon.
Central Africa. So you have 4 countries just near the region.
Right. Right.
And you have also in 100 kilometers, the next time we will go, we will take the time to visit. You have a reserve preserved by UNESCO of animals.
Right. My sister, yeah, the hour is gone.
Yeah, I know.
The hour is
I know.
gone. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Like I said,
Same to me.
it's like about two
Same
a.m. where
to
you are, but you took the time. You were committed enough, and you are such an amazing woman,
me.
so
I'm
packed and filled with energy.
I'm
You know,
trying.
so thank you for coming on,
Thank you so
and
much.
we'll keep in touch definitely, and we see you again soon. All right,
Yeah,
have a good
of course.
rest.
And we have to build the things together.
Yes, yes. Have a good rest, and we talk
Thanks.
again. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Good,
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. I'm Jomo Thomas. This is Voices. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
WeFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices. It's interactive and thought provokingly different. Voices, hosted by Jomo Thomas. We'll analyze all the issues of concern to you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the diaspora. Voices. We have a voice. We need your voice. Together, we are the people's voice. Voices.
These are some serious times. All I can see around us is just violence and crime.
Campari. The journey. The anticipation. The connection. It all comes together in one moment of perfection. And when it's over, we can't wait to do it again. Campari. Come together. Must be 18 years or older. Drink responsibly.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say. They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say. Hey, but I'll never forget no way. They crucified Jesus Christ. I'll never forget no way. They sold Marcus Garvey for rights. Ooh, I'll never forget no way. They turned their back on Paul Bogle. Hey, so don't you forget who you are and where you stand in the struggle. They got so very. They say it's everything. They say so much today. They got so much things to say, so much things to say. I come to fight flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So while they fight you down, stand firm and give Jah thanks and praises. Cause I do expect to be justified by the laws of men. By the laws of men. Oh, truly found me guilty, but true shall prove my innocence. Oh, when the rain falls now, it will fall and one man's house stop. Remember that. When the rain falls, it won't fall on one man's house. Stop it singing. So very much, so very much, so very much. They got so much things to say right now. Yeah, they got so much things to say. Hey, but I and I don't come to fight flesh and blood. Spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So why they fight?
That's right, man. This is a Voices program coming your way right here on WeFM 99.9 with the kind compliments of Campari, and of course, we take you back to Jomo Thomas. Jomo, good night.
Maka, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for walking us through the first hour. The second hour, Maka, did you get a chance to? Did Kamal explain to you the piece we wanted to play with Ta-Nehisi Coates?
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't. Because that was a piece. The Ta-Nehisi Coates is an American writer and professor, and the piece. It was like about a 30-minute interview he did with the celebrated journalist, Democracy Now! Journalist, that talks about his experience when he was. It's unfortunate we don't have it, But in its place, for the next hour, I want us to talk a little about the situation in the Middle East and what that portends to be a very difficult situation. At least talk about it for a little while. And I want to read for listeners, for viewers, a column which was written by one of my favorite, well, not one of, my absolute favorite female journalists. Her name is Caitlin Johnson. She has written um, her last 15 or 20 columns had to do with one issue or the other coming out of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the piece that I want to read for listeners is called Israelis Keep Hurting Their Own PR Interests by Talking. And I'll read that and then we have a discussion on it before we go on to some other things that are a little bit more local. So here's Caitlin Johnson, and she says, one problem Israel keeps running into is how the institutionalized dehumanization of Palestinians, which keep the apartheid state operational, also causes Israelis to say things that non-Israelis will find extremely shocking, which hurts Israel's PR's interests. We saw this illustrated in a recent New York Times interview with Daniela Weiss, the leader of the push to build illegal Israeli settlements on Palestinian lands. Weiss stated frankly and unapologetically that she supported apartheid, that she does not believe Palestinians should have any sovereignty anywhere, that she does not believe Palestinians should have voting rights, that she wants the population of Gaza to be replaced by Israeli settlements, and that she's untroubled by the killing of children in Gaza because she feels it's being done in the interests of Israeli children. Asked where the Palestinians in Gaza should go, Rice replied, to Sinai, to Egypt, to Turkey. When the interviewer said that Palestinians are not Egyptians or Turkish, she contended that Ukrainians are not French. But when the war started, they went to many countries. To the question, when you see Palestinian children dying, what's your emotional reaction as a human being? Weiss answered, I go by a very basic human law of nature. My children are prior to the children of the enemy, period. They are first, my children are first. Asked if she believed that human rights are not universal and should not apply equally to everyone, Weiss replied, that's right. But perhaps the most revealing statement Weiss made was her entirely truthful explanation of what drives the Israelis' push to colonize Palestinian lands. Yes, Weiss, she says, in Israel, there's a lot of support for settlements, and this is why there have been right-wing governments for many years. The world, especially the United States, thinks there's an option for a Palestinian state. And if we continue to build communities, then we block the option for a Palestinian state. We want to close the option for a Palestinian state, and the world wants to leave the option open. It is a very simple thing to understand. That one paragraph right there will teach you more about the present day realities of Israel-Palestine conflict than an entire year of watching CNN. It's horrid. It's jarring to hear its people out. To hear it spoken out loud in a favorable way, but it's true. This sort of thing has been happening for years. Israelis who have been marinating in self-validating echo chambers of Zionist ideology, which dehumanizes Palestinians and normalizes oppression and abuse, don't think twice about saying things that make Israel look bad on the world stage. Because to them, it is just the standard status quo way of looking at things. In 2021, a settler from New York named Jacob Fauci made headlines around the world with his candid statement to a Palestinian family whose Sheikh Jarrah home he was squatting in. Fauci, apparently fully aware that he was being filmed, famously replied to the family's complaint that he was stealing their home by shamelessly telling them, if I don't steal it, someone else would steal it. And the thing is, he's not lying. he was truthfully describing an abusive dynamic in apartheid Israel, where Palestinians are being forced out of their homes in order to control ethnic demographics and advance the agenda outlined by Daniela Weiss. If he had been a trained propagandist for the Israeli state, he never would have made such a comment on camera. But because he was just a Zionism indoctrinated member of the Israeli public, he saw no reason to hold his tongue. Some years ago, the Empire file Abby Martin put together a devastating critique of the Zionist ideology just by going around the street of Jerusalem with a camera and a microphone and talking to Jewish Israelis about their views on Palestinians. Over and over and over again, they shared their support for tyranny, murder, genocide, ethnic cleansing, in their own words and without hesitation, never thinking that their words could be used to harm Israel's image, because to them, these were just normal things that they said all the time in their day-to-day lives. You see, the same sort of things when Israelis are filmed sitting in lawn chairs to watch and share Israel Defense Force bombing operations in Palestinian neighborhoods, during which a woman once told the press, I am just a little bit fascist, after advocating the total destruction of Gaza City. Every time this happens, it sends viral video footage around the internet and does real damage to the world's perception of Israel. That's a big part of why Israel is struggling to control a narrative about Gaza, about the Gaza massacre today, which is in turn being exaggerated by more incendiary statements by Israelis, not just from the general public, but from within the Israeli government itself. On Saturday, Israeli Security Cabinet Minister, and I'll read it again. On Saturday, Israeli Security Cabinet member and Agriculture Minister Avi Dichter casually referred to the violent forced expulsion of Palestinians from the northern half of Gaza as Nakba 23, a reference to the violent forced expulsion which was inflicted on Palestinians at the establishment of the Israeli state in 1948. Israeli Security Cabinet Minister Avi Dichter was asked in a news interview on Saturday whether the images of northern Gaza Strip residents evacuating south and the idea of orders were comparable to the Nakba. He replied, "We are now rolling out Gaza Nakba. From an operational point of view, there is no way to wage a war as the IDF seeks to do in Gaza, with masses between tanks and soldiers." When asked again whether this was the Gaza Nakba, Dichter, a member of the Security Cabinet and a former Shin Bet director, said, "Gaza Nakba 23, that's how it will end." When asked later if this means Gaza City residents won't be allowed to return, he replied, "I don't know how it will end up happening since Gaza City is 1/3 of the Strip, half the land population, but 1/3 of the territory." Dichter's comments are not surprising. Dichter's comments are surprising not only because Israel has been publicly framing the mass displacement of Gaza as a measure taken solely to protect civilians, but also because the Israeli government has long officially denied that the Nakba ever happened, even passing laws forbidding its history to be taught in schools. Even as Western officials hasten to frame Israel's action as a defensive and measured response to the Hamas attack on October 7th, Israeli officials have been falling all over themselves in a mad rush to make these Western officials look like liars. When talking about the Gaza assault, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made headlines by invoking the biblical nation of Amalek, whose people God instructed the Israelis to commit total genocide against. The first book of Samuel contains the instruction, "Go now, attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belong to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys." President Isaac Herzog, the Israeli president, insinuated last month that all civilians in Gaza are legitimate military targets because they failed to overthrow Hamas, saying, "It is not true. This rhetoric about civilians not being aware, not involved, it is absolutely not true." They could have risen up. They could have fought against the evil regime which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat. When announcing the total siege in Gaza, which sees the enclave cut off from electricity, food, water, and fuel, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant stated that we are fighting human animals and we are acting accordingly. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari said Israel would turn Gaza into a city of tents, and the Israelis' emphasis is on damage and not accuracy in its bombing campaign. Dan Gilman, Israel's former ambassador to the UN, said last month, "I am very puzzled by the constant concern which the world is showing for the Palestinian people and is actually showing for these horrible, inhuman animals who have done the worst atrocities that this century has seen." Hamas became ISIS, and the citizens of Gaza are celebrating instead of being horrified. The Economist cited an Israeli general saying last month, "Hamas beasts are dealt with accordingly." Creating a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a necessary means to achieve the goal, a major general named Giora Eland wrote in an Israeli newspaper, adding, "Gaza will become a place where no human beings can exist." Israel keeps trying to portray it as a rational actor and a positive force in the world. But if you listen to Israelis themselves, you get a very different understanding of what this murderous apartheid state is actually about. As Mia Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, you better believe them. Now, I don't know if people are moved in the way in which I am moved by this tragedy. But I gotta tell you, it has affected me badly. And if you go on my Facebook page, you would see me posting time and time again people and stories about what is happening in Gaza. Because I don't know if people know it, but I don't think there's any country in the world that could have gotten away with what Israel is doing. I mean, the crimes are palpable. Everything they're doing is against international law. Everything that they're doing constitutes a war crime. But they are supported by some of the most powerful countries on earth. How in heaven's name could you attack a territory and say you're cutting off the water, you're cutting off the light, you're cutting off the food? How could you indiscriminately bomb apartment buildings and hospitals? And you know, I can't remember who made this point, but it is a significant point because Israel said that it was taken by complete surprise of the insurgent attack by Hamas on October 7th. Yet, Israel blows up a hospital and it says it blew up the hospital because Hamas militants were in there. They blow up an ambulance. They say we blow up the ambulance because Hamas militants were in there. They blow up whatever they decide to blow up, and they say they know for sure that Hamas militants were in there. So how do they know so much about Hamas and where they were and where they are after October 7th, but did not know? So it's clear that they're lying. As Defense Minister Gallant said, they are not they are concerned with destruction. They are not concerned with accuracy. How do you have the president of a country saying that all of the people in Gaza, and remember, you know, Gaza has about 2.4 million people. 1.1 million of them are children. And the president of Israel, President Herzog, says that all of the people in Gaza are guilty because all of them, they could have risen up and overthrow the Hamas government. So this whole notion of collective punishment, which is against international law, is being carried out. Where else in the world? Where else in the world could we have a situation where in the space of 5 weeks, 5 weeks? Yeah, in the space of 5 weeks, 10,000 human beings are slaughtered. And that's a conservative number because all of these buildings that are falling all over the place, um, we don't know who's trapped in there. It's like, sometimes if you have an earthquake and you take the time and you move the rubble, you find scores, sometimes hundreds of bodies. In this situation here in Gaza, we can see it. The buildings are coming down, the hospitals are coming down. In the hospital, they killed 500 persons. These buildings are imploding, they're coming down. So there are probably thousands of people buried under that rubble. But we have 10,000 already, well, 11,000 I heard today. And the world seems not to be concerned. The United States refuses to support the ceasefire. Powerful country. And the same writer whom I just read in an earlier column, she said that it's rather surprising that the Holocaust came back, and she's talking about the Holocaust that is being committed against the Palestinians. The Holocaust came back with I got it. The Holocaust came back with those who were perpetrating the Holocaust screaming anti-Semitism and wearing an Israeli Defense Force shirt. How ironic is that? That some of the people who were horribly exploited and oppressed and suppressed and killed are now the present-day face of Nazism, are now the current face of fascism. How could you have victimized people? And there's no doubting that Jewish people were victimized over the centuries, and certainly victimized between 1939 and 1945 in Germany. They are now the oppressors. They are now sitting on the Palestinian people like a heavy load. And the Martinican Negritude writer Amy Césaire once said that mass slaughter and the Holocaust, Europeans are not really concerned about it. And they were only concerned about mass slaughter and the Holocaust because that mass slaughter, that Holocaust came to Europe. Because as we know, Europeans are masters of committing genocide across the world. We know here in St. Vincent from our history that they committed genocide against our Garifuna people. We know that they literally destroyed the indigenous population of the Americas. We know that King Leopold killed 10 million Africans in the Congo between 1895 and 1906. But that was not perceived as a Holocaust. But 10 million people in the Congo alone is more than all of the Jewish people who were killed in the Jewish Holocaust during the Second World War. So we cannot allow Jewish people to appropriate the word Holocaust. So when you say Holocaust, it is as if the only Holocaust that was ever committed was the Jewish Holocaust. Because there's a Holocaust, an African Holocaust, that has been going on for hundreds of years and still goes on to this day. So it is for us to think through these things and to have an appreciation for the fact that what is happening in Palestine should not be happening. What is happening in Palestine is not right. And certainly people need to speak out. Those of us need to speak, more of us need to speak out on this question, because um, might can't be right. You can't slaughter 11,000 people in 5 weeks. And I was listening to a speech this evening before I came on by Julius Malema, the head of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party in South Africa. He was invited up to Kenya to do a speech, and he was making the point that more and more people just need to say, just stand on the side. He says, you say it forcefully, you say it properly, you don't be afraid, because in the end, all of the people who may probably come out and condemn you, when they're sitting in the living room, when they're lying on their beds, when they're taking a shower, they would have to conclude that you are right if you stand on the side of truth, if you stand on the side of righteousness, if you stand on the side of international law, if you stand on the side of international human rights law, if you're opposed to collective punishment, if you're opposed to ethnic cleansing, because that's what is happening in Gaza. You know, um, the Israelis say that Palestinians should leave. They should leave northern Gaza, and they are bombing. But international human rights law says that there should be corridors for safe passage. But notice that there's no corridor for safe passage that opens for Palestinians to go into Israel. None. So the safe passage that they have, they must either go south, and some of them, remember, there's no food, there's no water, so these people are probably very weak. Many of them may be injured, and they have to walk this road to go from northern Gaza, from Gaza City down to the south. So that's going to be a difficult task for many of these people. But that's what you have. Because this genocide that's taken place against the Palestinian people is with the connivance of the United States and France and Italy and England. It is with the connivance of these powerful countries. So we just need to get that clear. We just need to get that straight, and know that what is happening in Palestine should not be happening. What is happening in Palestine should be condemned. Our government should be called on to break relations with the Israeli government in much the same way in which Bolivia broke relations, in much the same way in which the South African government, through its Minister of Foreign Relations, Naledi Pandor, made such a powerful, forceful statement outlining the fact that Israel today is very much like apartheid South Africa. And not only that, she called on the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and many of the other powerful ministers in that government. So we need to be clear that our government needs to take a position beyond the call for a ceasefire, and ensure that we stand squarely on the side of international law. Be sure that we stand squarely against ethnic cleansing. Be sure that we stand firmly in defense of the United Nations and international humanitarian law. Because if we don't do that, what can we stand for? I don't know how many people died in the Ukraine since the war started. But I know that in the Ukraine, in that war, within a few months of the war, powerful countries got the International Criminal Code to issue an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. They said that he committed a war crime and that he seized children from Ukraine and took them over to Russia. Now, here you have 10,000 people killed in 5 months. I mean, in 5 weeks. And the International Criminal Court is silent. So it means there's one set of rules for one set of people, and there's another set of rules for another set of people. But it's 9:30. We take the final break for the evening, and then we come back for more.
Presents Voices, a talk show that's not just new, it's phenomenal. Voices, it's interactive and thought-provokingly different. Voices, hosted by Jomo Thomas. We'll analyze all the issues of concern to you, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the diaspora. Voices. We have a voice. We need your voice. Together, we are the people's voice. Voices.
These are some serious times. All I can see around us is just violence and crime.
Campari. The journey. The anticipation. The connection. It all comes together in one moment of perfection. And when it's over, we can't wait to do it again. Campari, come together. Must be 18 years or older. Drink responsibly.
And this is not about religion. It's not about color. It's not about class. It's about right and about wrong. And we must get into it. Yeah? Heavy. You took me from Africa, exploit my labor. 500 years later, I still can't recover my dignity. You took from me, rape me constantly, bankrupt my economy, left me in mental slavery. Then now, you got to pay for me sweat right now. You better pay up your debt right now. Look, show the world you regret right now. No salaries and slavery, back pay for 5 centuries. Me grandpa and grandmommy, I want their gratuity, preparation, compensation. Yo, this is not a recommendation. It's a demand from all black nations representing our reparation, satisfaction now, and the oppression and the plantation was inhumane and wrong. Time for reparation. We collect it. We must collect this. See for our children, we must do it. Yeah? It is my family, you scatter. Yeah. All over. Family value shatter. Use brother to breed sister. You purposely experiment on me to build your industry. More strength and energy. A weak brain and a strong body. You know, you got to pay for me strength right now. Let me collect me rent right now. Pay for the energy spent right now. Look, you.
That's right. We're from 99.9. The Voices program is on. We now cross it back over to your host of the program, Jomo Thomas. Jomo?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. This is Voices. I'm Jomo Thomas. we're in the tail end of this program. I want us to spend the remaining minutes looking at the state of play in our country, particularly as it relates to the crime situation. Because I don't know for listeners, but if you're not alarmed by what is happening with the crime situation in St. Vincent, I guess you have been numbed into feeling that this is business as usual. And I would hope that none of us will get to that point. Clearly, the government has lost all control over the security situation. I know we have a new police commissioner. I know we had a shake-up in the police high command, but I honestly don't think that the police have a control or have a handle on the crime situation. I mean, the most explosive part of it is the homicide situation, where to date we have 47 homicides, which means that we may well go past 52 if we keep, because we still have what? We still have another 6 weeks in this year. We may well go past 52. As it stands now, we are clocking a homicide per week. I don't agree with the police high command's view that we cannot count police shootings that lead to death as homicides. I think like every other homicide, every other killing, there needs to be an investigation, an independent investigation that determines if and when there's a need for any kind of criminal trial, any kind of criminal culpability. Could be a negligent homicide, it could be any of those. But we must not dismiss it as proper and right, or as often is the case when we have the coroner's inquest, as person dying from misadventure. And for us to conclude that this is proper because a police officer was involved in the killing. All too often, we see where police officers are very tight-lipped when it comes to police action that leads to killings. We saw it with CJ. We saw it with BJ Weeks. We saw it with BJ Llewellyn. We have seen it time and time again that the police would kill and then try to cover up. So that is troubling. What is also troubling is the amount of property crime that we have, the amount of robbery, the amount of burglary, the amount of assault, the amount of wounding, aggravated wounding, wounding that leads to grievous bodily harm. Much, too much of that. And I am of the view that part of the reason why we are seeing so much crime is that there's a kind of social dislocation, that the society is unhinged, that we no longer have the social moorings that we had, that the society is in a state of paralysis, that there's increasing hopelessness, there's helplessness. there's a tremendous, almost explosive um, body of frustration, which has a lot of people, particularly young, the youth, on edge. Some of them are looking for points and places of belonging. So they get involved and do certain things we may not be in their own best interest, but certainly is not in the society's interest. So I hope that you would join me and conclude that crime is a major problem. And all of us know what's driving it. For one thing, there's that disconnect between what the society says is a good life and the ability of the society to put the wherewithal for everyone or the majority of the citizens to have a good life. And where is that disconnect? A lot of people, including a lot of young men, a lot of youth generally, but mostly young men, are taking it onto themselves to do whatever they need to do to advance. And many of them turn to crime. And many of them turn to violent crime. And many of them victimize citizens, hardworking citizens, upstanding citizens. And many of the people who are victimized are not people with a lot of means. But certainly the victimizer, the young, mainly young men, may think that this person may be a little better off than they are. And they move aggressively to damage that person, to injure that person, to shoot and to kill that person, to beat that person into a pulp. So crime is that major problem. And I think that we have to find ways. We have to find ways to arrest it. And I'm of the view that while change of governments don't solve problems or don't solve all the problems, are incapable of solving all the problems, a change of government may cause a reprieve, if only temporary. Maybe there may be a feeling that, okay, we have a new government, let's see what they're going to do. And I tell the story all the time, because it was internationally celebrated, or at times of high emotional event. The best example is when Nelson Mandela was released from prison in South Africa. For 3 or 4 weeks after Nelson Mandela was released from prison, the crime rate, and particularly the homicide rate in South Africa, dropped spectacularly. It's as if a lot of people got a new lease of life, a new way of thinking, and they refuse to allow themselves to go down a path which led to frustration, which led to them shooting or stabbing or killing another person. And when you have societies as disorganized as ours, as lawless as ours, and then you have on top of that, compounding all of that, the homelessness, the unemployment, the underemployment, the official corruption where young people are looking out and seeing this person doing very well without making a lot of effort, and they can't even find a job. All of those make for that toxic mix that allows for the crime situation that we have. And none of us should settle. When we have 47 homicides already this year, we had 42 last year, and as I said, there's a source which told me that we had more like 45 or 46 last year, but the authorities tried to hide the amount. But let us take the official number. So we have 47 this year, we had 42 last year, we had 40 before that. So in the last 3 years, at least 130 young men were shot. Well, mainly young men were shot and killed. Just in the last 3 years, 130. Of the 130 persons who were shot and killed, I don't think there were arrest, charges, trial, and conviction for 20 of them. I don't think so. If there was, I doubt 30 of them. So in the last 3 years, for about 100 homicides, the police never found out who the perpetrator was, and as a consequence, that person was never arrested or charged. Consequently, it follows that if we assume that one person killed those 100 other persons who were not arrested, it means that at least there's 100 criminal killers out there, right? But that may not be the case. What we may have a set of individuals in our societies who who have multiple homicides on the hand, under the belt. And again, that is not a good thing. Because the more shootings and killings that you do and you get away with it, is the more brazen you're going to become. And just today I was talking to a good colleague of mine, and we were making the point that woe be unto us if we get to where New York City and Los Angeles were in the 1980s. Because in the 1980s, we had the phenomenon called the drive-by shooting, where somebody may notice that somebody that they want in the crowd, and they may come and just spray the crowd. And we know that some of the criminal elements have the kind of the weaponry and machinery that can create serious damage if something like that were to happen. So woe be unto us if we get there. And we have to do everything that does not allow us to go down that road. But we are on a slippery slope. And the quicker we arrest it, is the better it is for all of us. But it's not going to be arrested. It's hardly likely, let me put it this way, that is going to be arrested by this current bunch. We had the chief up in the police force. Colin John, in my estimation, was forced out. We now have Mr. Williams as Commissioner of Police. But that in itself is not going to solve anything. It's not going to solve anything. The mere shifting of personnel is not going to shout anything. The mere purchasing and utilization of body cameras and other body cams and other cameras on the street may deter, but they are not going to solve. These elements are going to find a way to take out who they want to take out. Unless we get to a point where we are arresting and charging and trying in a speedy fashion criminal elements, they're going to become more emboldened, they're going to become more aggressive, they're going to become more brazen, and we're going to have even more mayhem. So that's where we are. We are rapidly approaching that fork in the road that can send us on a path which may allow us to at least stem the tide of all of these homicides which we are having, or we can do continue on that road, which brings greater fear and alarm in the society. And none of us, I think, none of us want that. So we have to begin to organize. We have to begin to have a village watch. We have to begin to have be the eyes and ears of ourselves for our own protection, because we know because the police is so ill-equipped with investigative techniques and tools. If you go at night or a day or a week and there's no arrest, there's a real chance that there's not going to be arrest. And because the science says the longer you stay from making an arrest, the chances of arrest diminishes. The chance of arrest diminishes exponentially. So we have to we have problems, and unless we recognize that problem for what it is and to move aggressively, I mean, those of us who are comfortable, those of us who have a good job, those of us who have a more comfortable lifestyle, cannot throw up our hands and think that, well, okay, it's good for us, so we don't have to bother with what is happening in the rest of the society, because what is happening in the rest of the society totally and completely impact and affect all of us. So that is that problem: crime, violence, mayhem. It's just as we come to the closing minutes, there's just one other thing I want to talk about. I saw where I think it was a coverage I saw on VFM. I don't think any of the other journalistic bodies or media houses carried it, but I'm sure I saw it on VFM, where the Prime Minister said that elections will not be held until 2025. Well, he may be right. And if you understand the way in which Prime Minister Gonzalez have done elections over the last few years, but not over the last few years, for the entire tenure, he tend to go the entire term, right? The full 5 years, well into the 5th year. I happen to think that this year is going to be different. This term is going to be different. I, for one, from as early as March and April, was saying that I think that we were going to have an election this year. That didn't happen. And I think we have gone past the point now constitutionally where we can do all of the things that we need to do, prorogue the parliament, set a date for nomination day, and then have a minimum of 14 days for elections, considering that any party that wants to have a December election would want to have the election out of the way by the 15th of December to allow people to go into the Christmas season quite undistracted. So we are not, or it's highly unlikely that we would have an election from where we are now to being the 13th of November. But I still believe that we are going to have an election sometime soon. I am absolutely convinced that we are not going to go to 2025. And here's where the Prime Minister said today that all elections will be held in 2025. Well, we all know that elections are constitutionally due by February 2026, actually, because remember, after the 5 years, if you run the entire 5 years, there is a 90-day period within which you must hold elections. So constitutionally, you can go up until February 2026. But I'm absolutely convinced that elections will be held much, much sooner than that time. In fact, I am not so sure that we would go into 2025. In the comments today, the Prime Minister said that the opposition was confused or bamboozled or whatever, and they were calling. He said, and his response to that confusion, that the statements from the opposition was that elections would not be held until 2025. Well, if anybody is serious about politics, believes that, they need to throw in the towel. They need to give up on politics because that is a decoy. That statement about 2025 election is a decoy. Because I don't see how um, the ULP is going to be any better off in 2 years. I don't see it. It is true that Beach Sandals is going to open, or a few people may get a job there. It is, but what we have to remember at Beach Sandals, the vast majority of the workers were foreign workers, Haitians, Dominican Republic, people from Dominican Republic and Colombia. On the port, a lot of the workers there are foreigners. So our people are not getting the full benefit of all of these hundreds of millions of dollars that we are told are being spent from an employment standpoint. Some of them are there, but we're not getting the full benefit. So that takes away from the impact it's going to have from an electoral standpoint. It is true that with the port, $600 million port, with the Sandals development, some people are going to get jobs in the construction and then in the operation of these projects. But to what extent would those projects impact and impact positively what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Because even if a few hundred people get a job at Sandals, and even if a few hundred people are employed in the construction of new port, we still have 40+% unemployment. We still have close to 40% poverty. We still have the fallout from the draconian, wicked, evil COVID policy of the government that resulted in hundreds of workers being fired from their jobs and being forced to live on very meager sums. Many of them, their lives turned upside down because the government took their livelihood away from them. So those are the kind of problems that we have. So I don't see why, or I don't see how they are going to be better off 2 years from now, because there's nothing in the pipeline that solve any of those problems that we have now. Anything that comes would just impact on the margins. We know that the ULP has the power of the incumbency. It's in the power. It's in the government. We know it's going to have an enormous war chest to run the elections. We know that. We know what the ULP did in the 2020 election was nothing short of perverse. That in most of the constituencies, but certainly in North, leeward and North windward, the kind of largesse that was spread across that constituency in clear violation of the Representation of the People's Act were horrible. So it would have to be more of that. But in the end, I think any self-respecting nationalist, anybody with any modicum of progressiveness left in them, would have to conclude that this project was a failure on broad levels, and that what we have, to the extent we had any development at all, that development was on the margins, and that the time has come for us to break the spell. And the way in which we break a spell when a party is going for a sixth term, which is difficult to repeat for a sixth term, and you don't underestimate Prime Minister Gonzalez, because if anybody in Zimbabwe can do it, he can. But they're going to come with a lot of money, and the way to do it is to go back to the mantra, the UPM mantra of 1979, eat them out, drink them out, and vote them out. Now, so we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you, Maka, for pinching for us tonight.
Yes.
In the absence of Kamal. I want to thank all of the persons who listened and interacted with us. We know that there are so many other things that you could have done, but you decided to stay with us. I want to thank our sister, Edwidge Ibakis, from the NGO Southern Development, because that they play a crucial role and will continue to play a crucial role in linking continental Africans with diasporans. I want you to remember, read, pay close attention, because what you don't know can kill you. Until next week, Jomo Thomas saying good night from Voices.
All right, that's been the Voices program for this evening right here on WFM 99.9. Of course, the invitation is yours to join us again next week, Monday, from 8 o'clock for another one. We now join our attention to the Tuesday and program for this evening right here on WFM 99.9.
WFM 99.9 presents Voices, a talk show that's not